Well, good morning, Orkin pros. It's not Victor, not Freeman. Say hello to our Orkin president, Pat Chernowski. Pat, say hello to the folks out there.
Good morning, Orkin. Glad to be here.
Hey, I thought what we would do today, let's look around a little bit. I see some smiling faces. I see Kendall Harmon. Who do you see out there, Pat?
I see Leland, but he's not smiling.
Yeah, he's covering up his face, yeah.
Oh, there he is. All right.
There's Shane Messer, Sam Burt,
Yeah,
the Tennessee
Mike Palermo.
connection.
Yeah, sure.
Corey-
Sager,
Corey
Michelle
S-
Stockstead.
Corey Smith. I see Jesse from the OCC.
All right.
Who else? Oh, Darren Brinson. There you go. Yeah,
There you
Jesse
go.
Parker. Michelle. Yeah, you said Michelle already, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jacob Johnson's like waving his hands. Look at him. He's trying to draw attention to himself.
He's saying, hey, look at me.
Look at me.
He's got a crown on.
He does have
He's
that
got
crown
something going
position
on there.
perfectly.
Not
If you
sure
guys
what
are
that
looking
is.
if you're looking at your participants, but
There's a happy face. Glenn Genther's always smiling.
you said that, not me.
All
Hey,
right.
I thought what we were going to do today, just kind of, we're really the whole premise of this is kind of wrapping up 2022, Pat,
Yep.
and then at the same time, kind of building on I guess the message that you've delivered twice. Actually, the RSMs, they saw it. They got a teaser of the Built for Growth message in December when you came in and addressed the RSMs, and
Yeah.
we met in the hotel here. And then you just recently delivered the message to the region managers last week.
Yeah.
Just give me just a little bit on that Built for Growth.
No, at the risk of repeating, the whole Built for Growth message that we're focused on is we've got so much business that comes in, and while we're hitting plan, we're not quite getting to the potential. When I look at our backlog, Ed, I looked at it last week. We were over $18 million between residential and commercial and termite ancillary backlog, and the concern that I have is while January's shaping up to be really good, and I anticipate a good first quarter, I just don't know that we've got enough horses in the barn to get the work done. And so there's going to be more out there as I work with the field and get out and have an opportunity to spread this message. We're going to be looking more closely at backlog cancels. We're going to be looking at start rates. We're going to be looking at your termite as your completions as a percentage of your sales, and then looking at some opportunities we have with RFS adoption and capacity on the routes.
Absolutely. I think everybody was excited with the message. I mean, I certainly was for one.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about Built for Growth, we should probably talk about staffing.
Sure.
So let's talk about staffing a little bit.
Absolutely.
Pat, as I was doing some research, I get a new boss. He wants to look at different things. He's into these trends and wants to know more about trends. And he said, how are we doing staffing-wise? And quite frankly, I was a bit disappointed with where we're at. We're talking about this Built for Growth message, and these are actual numbers of how we ended every year. In 2019, for example, we ended up with 381 account managers at year end. Now in 2022, we've only improved that by four. So we need some work there. Obviously, we had the year of 2020, which impacted both residential, but particularly commercial with COVID. When we did some furloughing, we did some stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when we come right down to it, we got 1,199 folks on board today, and actually the numbers from last night's DOR show it's just a couple down in residential. Sure. So I know that kind of has to catch up with what all the new people that we've added, and they got a new sales class going on here in Atlanta this week that's starting this afternoon. So we're adding folks. But talk about the importance of really, the +1 mentality. The kind of you guys adopted up there in the north, in the Midwest a little bit to explain what that means.
Ed, the biggest concern really is, we want to make sure that despite the fact we continue to blow sales plan out, we had strong double-digit increases in commercial, same with termite ancillary, but when you look at the staffing numbers, we're just not keeping pace with the potential in the markets. And that's really been the message and the theme that I'd like everybody to adopt and embrace this year is, are you managing and making decisions in your businesses based on the plan? Or are you making those decisions based on the potential? And that's both the sales dollars and the revenue dollars, but also what staffing you have. And this came up last week, or 2 weeks ago, and it's come up in a couple other conversations, that in the same branches, we have the same number of salespeople. You've got 2 or 3 residential and 1 account manager, and that staffing has been there like that for the last 10 years or more. So Ed, that's the biggest challenge really, to take a look at that more closely and see what potential do we have in those markets.
Agreed. The one thing that really jumped off the page for me since 2019, I think I lost track at like 8 new regions, Pat.
Yeah.
We have 8 new regions, but we have the same amount of salespeople. So that math just doesn't make sense. How did we grow 8 new regions and not have more salespeople? Sure. So certainly something to focus on. So let's take a look at some individual or region performances and talk about some folks that led the way.
Yeah.
Leading the way, the only region in the entire Orkin company that was staffed to plan in 2022 was Trip Ward and the folks out in Kentucky. So give it up for Trip and
great job
chat
in
him up.
Kentucky.
Give him some accolades in the chat there. Keep that chat busy. Follow closely, really close at 97.5 are Brad Ray and Stephen Jones down there with Corey in Virginia at 97.5. And then Michigan with Jason Sager leading the charge there at 95.1. And then obviously there's a big discrepancy as you look at these slides. We're going to have the top three and we're going to have the bottom three. Look at the span between those, right? From 73% the plan to 120% the plan. So certainly opportunity there, I think.
Absolutely.
Right? Amen. So just a quick little summation of staffing, how important it is, and your mindset on that, so they get that.
Well, we know, I mean, at the end of the day, the best laid plans of mice and men, as they say, Ed, without having the staffing intact and without having that vision and almost an OCD approach to making sure we're staying ahead of that, we will continue to hit the numbers, we'll continue to hit plan, but we're not going to move it into this continued double-digit growth that I believe we have potential for in just about every market. And the markets that made it a priority last year in those top three regions, not that it wasn't a priority, there's always other factors that play into why there was turnover or there was a miss in staffing, but the markets that got a death grip item on staffing, it took and it held and it carried them. It carried their performance for the year.
Amen. And I think one of the messages that I found really refreshing was that let's not stay focused on what the staffing plan number is. Mm-hmm. What's the right number in the branch? If you've had one or two folks in the branch selling residentially or commercially, should you have a third one? Could you afford to have a third one? Right. And I think in most cases the answers are yes. And I think as our region managers and our region sales managers break down that territory, break down their branches and look at them and say, we've had 3 branches, we've had 3 salespeople in this branch for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Why don't we have a 4th? We're growing. We've got a lot more route techs, but we're the same spot on staffing.
Right. That's right.
So that's enough on staffing right now. Let's take a little move to talking about residential pest control sales, 2022.
Yeah.
So here's the leaderboard with pure dollars. We're going to talk about some improvements to last year, but residentially pest control, it was a tough year for us as a company, residential pest-wise. We ended up at 98.6% of plan, a whopping $335 million in residential PC, led by the Midwest at 91, followed by the PAC division at 66 million. I mean, just crazy numbers. Yeah. I looked at the slides I did 2 years ago when we did something similar to this, and you got, these numbers are just, I was like double checking my math, making sure that I wasn't giving you all a bad number. Leading the way in Illinois is 21 million. I'm sure Glenn and Jason would say, well, we split Michigan, so we were smaller this year, but that's the other advantage. The other thing about these slides, as you look for them, there's a bunch of new regions. Yeah. There's a bunch of splits. So these are just representative of what was reported in 22.
Well, to your point, Ed, Michigan region split 2 years ago, and then the Iowa-Wisconsin region that's up there, they split this past year.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
The growth is there, and that commitment to staffing and that continued growth has been part of the recipe for their success.
Absolutely. Sneak back to the slide, Stormy. There you go. And certainly Maryland cracking the Midwest death grip on residential PC sales dollars. Just an outstanding job.
Jonathan. Great job to your team.
Here are some individual residential PC region performances ranked in order of percent to last year. All these slides that you see, these green and red ones, are all going to be based on last year numbers, not to plan, because plans, quite frankly, are all over the board throughout the divisions and the regions. You all plan differently, but these are pure comparisons to last year. And leading the way last year is Michelle and Bobby Bundles out there in Colorado. 12.8% ahead of last year.
Performance.
14-15% better than the company average.
Yeah.
Not to be outdone, Phil Holzapple and Dave Bridge down there in North Florida, and then certainly you got Brian Bergeron on the good list there.
I'll be out with Dave and his crew. I'm leaving tomorrow, so looking forward to seeing them.
Maybe you'll buy a mistake.
Yeah.
You think?
I might talk me. I think Dave might be a vegetarian now.
There you go. Hey, so that's total residential PC sales. I broke it down into field residential PC sales and OCCC generated sales. And in my mind, in the last 2 or 3 years, this has been our biggest miss, is the residential pest control sold by our technicians or our outside sellers, our home sales inspectors. This is where we've really fallen off. The residential PC sales generated by the field, down 8% to last year. Now you might think that's not much, but at the end of the day, the residential sales driven by the field, be it technician sales or be it our home sales inspectors, represent about 27% of our residential PC sales. So there are hundreds of, maybe not hundreds, there are there's at least 100, I know, branch managers out there that kind of wash their hands of residential PC sales, saying it's all in the hands of OCCC, and how leads go, we go. This slide proves different.
That's right.
Started off by Jacob Johnson and the group in Texas with Alan. All the crazy stuff that was going on, their residential field sales generated almost a 17% year-over-year increase.
Strong, there's focus there.
Something's going on right there. Same thing out there in Central Cal with Brian Bergeron, 13% increase. And then falling in the number 3 spot was Southwest Texas with Michael Wilburn, almost a double-digit residential field-generated sales increase.
Lots of opportunity out there, especially with Mosquito. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
And as you look at that, right, you're looking at 117 all the way down to 74 for the bottom slot. Again, a big span, a big gap. Here are the OCCC residential sales. These are the folks that Tim Tarantello and Jesse and Michelle, I can't see everybody out there, but and Jeff Steele. These are the sales that are generated by that team. And I think this is more, Pat, a reflection, maybe on some lead demand, but more a reflection, because these are all net sales.
Right.
These are all net started sales. This is a reflection on getting the starts done.
That's right.
And you look at North Florida leading the way. Their residential OCCC sales were 24% above last year.
It's a great job, Phil.
Same thing down in West Florida with John Coulter.
Yeah.
And then another monster residential pest control region, Southern Cal, with Kevin Tinsley and that crew out there with Ron. And that again, there's another split, right? So there's another split out there in SoCal based on putting these numbers up.
Starting to see a common theme here.
You get SoCal splitting out and busting out in Orange County, right?
That's
so I mean, just opportunity, just building like crazy. And again, the swing all the way down to 87%, all the way up to 124. So that's the OCCC picture. Again, be mindful, 27% of our residential PC sales are generated by the field. So Mosquito dollars, another great story. I mean, look at this, total dollars. We'll show that slide first. Orkin had a 35% increase in Mosquito sales, 71 million, Pat. Who'd have thought it?
No.
I mean, just think about it. I mean, did you ever see that?
A few years ago, we were in single digit, and kind of scratching our head. How much do we want to be doing, right? How much can we be doing?
Amen. I mean, we had divisions.
Yeah.
These two divisions sold more Mosquito. Midwest leading the way with 17 million, and Pacific sold more Mosquito than we did as recent as 6 years ago as a company.
Right. That's right.
So think about that emphasis there. 35% growth. We were closer to 50% growth last year. So this continues to build.
There's a couple of regions bringing it.
Amen. Illinois region.
Yeah.
3.6 leading the way. North Texas popping up there again. There's those Michigan guys again. Those Maryland guys again. And lo and behold, here comes the home front, the local Georgia region.
Yeah.
I think that's because you bought Mosquito Service last year. You bumped them over the edge there. But really, really strong performances on Mosquito sales. Certainly an opportunity for us moving forward. And let's look about the top 3 regions. There's Bobby and Michelle popping up in Colorado, leading the way. 214, they doubled their Mosquito sales from last year.
Yeah.
Doubled them. Yeah. You mentioned the Iowa-Wisconsin split. Well, there you go. 200% increase in Mosquito sales, year-over-year increase. And then Northern Cal, not to be outdone, at 185%. The good news is even the worst, that's a terrible word to use, but even the bottom performers still sold what they sold last year.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Mosquito will continue to be an opportunity because of this next slide. Talk a little bit about that one, because that's one you're pretty passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, the question, Ed, really becomes, do you realize what potential you have out in the market? When we first started looking at this, we weren't really sure what our base penetration was for Mosquito. We kind of figured, well, let's get into high single digit. That's where we started. We're now crossing into double digit territory. And then, in asking the region managers and in asking the field, where do we think this goes, especially when you add tech sales into the mix, we're shooting for 15%. And we have a couple of regions already at that point. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from 2 weeks ago, the Georgia region was already at 15% or better on base penetration for Mosquito. Very, very good add-on service, knocks down your callbacks, very profitable, and it helps us just bring additional revenue in while taking care of our customer.
Yeah, the other thing that's very unique, if you go back to that slide, Stormy, the other thing that's happened over the last kind of year and a half is OCCC is leading with the Mosquito bundle.
Yeah.
So we're getting a big pickup there, and there's kind of the cart and the horse, right? So are we having less tech sales because the OC3 team is leading and pitching the bundle and selling the bundle, taking that low-hanging fruit off, or is this just a compounding of the growth? And they will continue to do that. They're selling Mosquito right now. right now.
It comes down to, if you accept that excuse, that's what's happening. And I do not believe even for an instant that if we place more focus on this with our technicians, the OC3 impact on the bundle is going to slow us down. I think it just adds more to an already great opportunity.
Amen. And you look at that number, 10.6. What's the real potential? What could you do in your region? Where do you think you can drive that number to? We got regions already at 15, like Pat mentioned. So let's go back to the slide, Stormy. I think we're going to go and just residentially, just kind of wrap up some headwinds and tailwinds. What are you thinking?
Again, we've talked about being concerned about having lead declines, and this is a conversation I've had a couple times already with the division presidents, that, if we would have had double-digit lead increases last year, which we didn't, for the first time in the last couple of years, we've actually seen some lead declines. And the thing that keeps me up at night is had we had that double-digit increase in leads, or even single-digit increase in leads, what then would have happened to a start rate that's already been kind of trickling down? We've got the backlog in there. We've got it today. We're having a difficult time getting it worked. And we just, again, not to sound like a broken record, but we don't necessarily have the bodies or the horses in the barn to get the work done. And so the biggest thing I see standing in our way of really reaching our potential is making sure that we are challenging ourselves on bringing folks on board and getting this work done.
Amen. I think the one thing that kind of resonates with me with the residential PC sales is, this run of residential PC sales growth kind of stalled last year, right? But if you think about the growth in ancillary services and the growth in our termite services, those are really the result, quite frankly. A big contributing factor is the result of these additional folks to go out and be able to see. To see the PC and OTs. We had a lot, TCs, we had a lot more of those now, and scheduling those full home inspections on all these new sales. And as you mentioned earlier, we're off to it. We got it, fingers crossed, toes crossed. 2 more days of January, but we're having a
nice
really
start
strong
to the year.
Residential PC.
Nice start to the year.
Let's go to the slide, Stormy, and kick it up. Let's talk a little bit about commercial. Want to do that?
Sure.
Let's do that a little bit. So local commercial sales, right? These are the folks, the local business that gets posted locally on your books. Again, a 10.3% increase company-wide. Leading the way was the PAC team out there. Yeah. Sean and Ed Beauvais out there at 31 million, $31.5 million.
Great job, Pacific. Really
in
nice
commercial
job.
sales.
Yeah.
Followed up closely by Midwest at 30 million. And then breaking it down into the regions, leader 15 million for almost 16 million for Midwest, with Brady and Amani up there with, I guess Scott got promoted out of the deal.
Sure.
So that's kind of a good thing. And then you see Pacific Commercial coming in second, but that's really the result of a split too.
Yeah.
We blew another region out of Pacific Commercial. So these stories continue to grow on as we grow these things. These folks are still staying on those reports. So just outstanding. And then, obviously the leaders dollar-wise commercially are going to be our DEDCOM, our DEDCOM regions, which kind of makes sense, and you take it down through there. Let's talk about local commercial sales as a percent to last year. This one was staggering when I kind of put the slides together and the numbers together. Leading the way is a DEDCOM region in percent over last year, which last year wasn't 21 was not a bad year in Midwest commercial. So these blew the roof off this thing, and it's Midwest, and it's Amani and Brady coming in with a 42% year-over-year local commercial sales increase. Just outstanding.
Well, that's a good example, Ed, of the commitment to staffing. I don't have the number in front of me, but I know that team added, I want to say, at least 20 more account managers last year.
Yeah, they got pretty aggressive with that. Yeah. And another good story here with Dawn, right, out in the Southwest region. She went ahead. She sold all this commercial business. She got herself promoted to the division sales manager for the Pacific division. So again, the success story is kind of just emanating.
That's right.
And these guys from Maryland, man, they're not going away.
No, they're on every slide just about.
They're making their presence felt. And John Richards told me a story when we get to the termite sales. I may share with the rest of you. But look at Todd and those guys, 136%. Again, you see the difference in the growth from a 40% increase to really a 20
opportunity.
Perfect.
Opportunity.
Perfect terminology. Just so you know, I've never showed these bottom slide performers, but my friend here convinced me to do that. So if you're going to holler about that, that's his idea. But I took ownership of it, and I do like the idea. So
it sounds like you're passing blame.
No, I believe that was the bus that I just ran you over with. All right, let's go back to the slide. So, you did that one?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about national
accounts.
Pat and I just had a meeting with Mike and Mala here, before we kick this thing off, and continuing, it's still our fastest growing commercial business segment is national account sales. You look at the revenues for 2022, up 12.6%, almost $120 million book of business. The GCR, a really healthy 10.6% increase. The bed bug, we talked about this. We're seeing a little bounce back.
Yeah.
You know, after kind of 2 years of kind of being down, I think we talked about it earlier, people are starting to get back in hotels, they're starting to travel, they're starting to show up in hospital waiting rooms and visiting hospitals and dropping off their bed bugs. So that's that. Breaking down the sales a little bit, you know, overall a 15% or 15.6% increase in national account sales. And the true national piece, where really there's no involvement by the field, you know, the NAM sells it, or we add some business on, you know, 2.9% increase. That's overcoming a couple of really big sales in 21, but still eking out a win. And then the continuing growth category for us for the last 6 years has been these national account team sales, which have been double-digit, 20% or higher every year for the past 5 years.
Team sales have been carrying the mail. I mean,
Amen.
you know, just a great opportunity, especially for our newer account managers. The scope is there, the pricing is set. It gives them, helps them build their confidence and gets them out productive right away.
Absolutely. And the other story, kind of reversed to the residential PC sales being sold by the field, our national account sales are predominantly sold by you folks, by your team members, your account managers, your technicians upselling. So when you go, if I go back to that one slide, Stormy, real quick, you look at that, you know, 19,000 of that 49, or 19 million of that 49 was sold by national. 29 of that was sold by the field.
That's right.
And that's where those, and I always try to make sure that we recognize that your folks are bringing the bacon home there and making those things happen. So just a great story there.
Yep. So
here's some team sales dollars individually. Again, 29 million, already talked about that. Midwest leading the way with team sales at 7,376,000.
Yeah.
Followed, you know, fairly closely by Pacific, within a $500,000. It's 6,700,000. And then leading the way, you mentioned some of the growth out in the Midwest. Midwest Commercial at almost $5.5 million in national team sales, followed very closely by Southern Commercial at almost $5 million. And then we got the next three kind of following in line. Again, dominated by the commercial dead-com regions.
Absolutely.
Makes some sense.
Sure.
So when you compare national team sales to last year, remember Orkin came in at almost 22% increase in team sales year over year. Here are our top three region performers, leading off by New York Metro with Mike Shaman and Joe up there with 224%. Dramatic.
It's like a mic drop.
It is a mic drop. And I think that there's a couple of big pieces of premier business up there that help kind of drive that. And they've had, the account managers are really engaged up there. Yeah. And then same thing down there in Beltway. You know, Jordan Bosmany is going to be one of our, well, he's the chairman of the Chairman's Club commercially for our account managers, you know, for President's Club. And I would bet of his $1 million plus dollars, probably 300,000-400,000 of it was tied into national account.
Jordan's got the recipe.
He's figured it out. Yeah. And then not to be outdone, Southern Commercial with Brian Rooney and the since departed Greg Saladino. Another story of promotion, right?
That's right.
So Greg gets in there, knocks the wheels off it. Again, another promotion. So really a cool story. And again, you can see the discrepancies there as we get to the bottom.
All right.
So let's talk a little bit about commercial. Just kind of headwinds and tailwinds.
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing, Ed, with commercial is, you know, as the residential demand softens a little bit, the opportunity that we've got to embrace and get out in front of early this year is make sure we're built for growth to get that commercial team moving, get them on board, you know, get them productive, keep the team sales moving. And, you know, if I'm wrong, and I hope I am, you know, res will bounce back to, the previous couple of years on how it's looked. But, you know, if I'm right, and a lot of us are thinking the same thing, if res does not bounce back and kind of normalizes, commercial is going to be the wagon we need to hitch to.
Amen.
So,
you know, for like 19, even 20, you know, we had a little hit with 20, but we overcame the commercial decline with the Vital Clean. You know, we killed that, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of let us hold our own. But we've been running kind of, you know, in 21, we ran a triple play, right? We hit all three of them. Hit res, hit commercial, hit that one. But I think what has happened is last year between commercial, as we've seen here, double-digit growth, great revenue increases. We've and the termite we're going to get into in a minute. We really covered the lack of demand. Yeah. We said the heck with it. The phone's not ringing. We're going to figure it out. You know, the call center did a killer job with the lack of demand. They had 14% less leads. Yeah. Their closure went skyrocketing. Their average job price went way up. So there's a great story to tell there. Almost a home run. I mean, kind of the stuff, and Leland will laugh, you know, kind of the stuff they put statues on the front lawn of Rollins if you do that kind of work that Tim did out there.
That's right.
But Leland's laughing about that.
Well, I think the point, Ed, that we want to make sure we focus on is the field took, a lot of times, you know, what the OC3 brings in is not necessarily in everybody's control. Yeah. But what they could control which was your account manager efforts, your team sales, and then your termite ancillaries, where we got really strong lift, and it covered that revenue miss that we didn't have on the residential side last year. So, to the team, well done.
Amen.
And I hate to say it, but I think we need to expect a little bit of same kind of thing coming into 23, and let's get out in front of it commercially, team sales, national accounts, and termite ancillary.
Amen. And the other thing that's exciting for me as we move into 23 as it relates to commercial sales is we're dedicating a lot more sales management resources to it. Trish Capel's is in a role in Southeast Division, kind of supporting commercial sales. Dawn, as we mentioned earlier, got promoted to kind of say grace over the Pacific, to kind of just putting more bodies on it. I think it's the most difficult job to handle as a sales manager, particularly when we look at the big footprints. So adding that head count, and there's some conversations I've had with some other DSMs about adding even more commercial dedicated sales management headcount. So
it's exciting.
I feel very comfortable about bringing in a 15% increase next year. So
all right.
help me, please.
Well, let me jot that down. Let me jot that down.
Before you even said it. Let's go back to the slide, Storm. Let's talk about termite, this is awful fun to talk about because, man, it's a story.
Yeah.
Termite sales dollars, total dollars, everything all in together, 20% year-over-year increase. This is the 4th consecutive year we've had an increase year-over-year more than 18%.
Strong.
I mean, it just continues to keep coming. Our home sales inspectors are making crazy good money. I think we had 21 of our TSIs, HSIs, whatever you want to call them, sell over $1 million. I mean, they're killing it, man. They've grasped all these ancillary services. They're grasping the bait. They're taking advantage of all these PC customers we have. Leading the way, South Central Division. $67 million in termite-related sales.
That's a great job in South Central.
Amen. Leland and Gordon down there just killing it. Not to be outdone, Southeast close on their tail at $65 million, with Richard and Gary down there.
Rock solid.
And then still on top of the mountain, the Tennessee, Alabama region. They added a little bit more turf to it when you were there, but look at, like $20 million. Who'd ever thought a region could sell $20 million in termite service?
You're one in the job.
Hutch's first year.
Yeah. So good job. Good job. Proud of everybody on there. Maryland, Jonathan, you and your team. Corey, your team in Virginia.
There's a Maryland
rock
group
solid.
again.
Southern Cal coming in strong, and Gulf States up there. Nice to see Gulf States up there.
Crazy good numbers. Crazy good numbers. Just outstanding. Let's take a look at individual performances to last year by regions. And there's that name again.
Colorado's up there.
Bobby and Michelle. You're going to find there's a slide at the end that'll kind of give you some insight into that. 47% increase over last year, and not to. I mean, you just nudged them out. You just nudged, Glenn and Jason up there in Michigan out at 146%, and then Iowa, Wisconsin, with another story of a region split. And actually, Tim Kramer getting himself promoted to region manager. So there's just great news all the way through at 145%. Again, a good news, kind of good news, bad news. Yeah, everybody,
had an increase.
Every region had an increase.
That's right.
So high fives all the way around.
That's right.
That's a slide I don't mind sharing. Those other ones, I don't know. So traditional termite, the old drill it and fill it, right? Perimeter plus, whatever you're selling, the old termite stuff.
Yeah.
Here's where we're at as a company. We had a 9% increase in traditional termite. There's that guy again.
Yeah.
Bobby and Michelle leading the way, 49%. Cliff Brown up in Illinois, 130% in traditional termite. And there's that Michigan guy again, Jason and Glenn. Jason's carrying Glenn's bag, making him look like a star. I said that on purpose, Glenn. Yes. So send me a nasty note after this is over. 133%. And then again, we see the differences in performances. Again, traditional termite.
Yep.
Here's our bait sales dollars, a 12.5% increase. There's a big focus. We had a better year last year in year-over-year increase in bait. We were almost 20%. So this is kind of, while it's a win, it's still a miss in my mind. I think we can pound more of this. We can pound more bait. We can sell more Centricon. We can sell more Centricon. We can sell more Centricon. We got all these bazillion pest control customers out there. They all need Centricon protection. But even at that, still almost a 13% increase, which is solid. 51 million, almost 52 million. Led again by South Central at 17 million, Southeast at 13. Leading the way is Gulf States at staggering 7.6 million in bait sales.
Really nice performance there.
Yeah, that's tied into their Formosan offer, right? Because they got to get the bait in the ground. And again, there's North Florida again with the strong performance. North Texas again on the board. Maryland again, 2.8 million, and the Georgia region popping in there at 2.7 million in bait sales, right? We know that bait's way stickier.
Yep.
The renewals keep coming. You can't run away from the evidence. It's just strong. So termite bait sales to last year. These are the three groups that kind of led the way in percent to last year. Again, Orkin was 12.7, kind of a miss in my mind. But leading the way was the Illinois team with Rich and Cliff up there at 66% increase over last year. Followed pretty closely by South Florida with Marcello and JR down there at 148. And then Indiana with Indiana, Ohio. We can probably dump that Ohio now that you guys lost Sydney. Maybe you and Jason can figure that out. At 136, which is just outstanding. And again, you see the discrepancy in bait sales from the top to the bottom.
Sure.
So just a really strong performance.
Just shows the opportunity.
Yeah, and we've got opportunity on that 13% increase.
Absolutely.
I think we can get that back to 20.
I agree.
Here's the mind boggler. 36% increase. Termite Ancillary. When this thing first kicked off, I think you were up in the Northeast, and I remember Tim Brady shooting these videos about Orkin shield and bending metal, and I'm like, what the heck are we doing?
Oh, yeah.
What are we thinking doing this stuff, right? And it come to find out that in 22, almost $120 million worth of that business, led obviously by the Midwest, and almost $41 million in termite ancillary sales. Stuff that we never, other than insulation, some of these things we never had available, up until 2-3 years ago.
And it's high margin business.
And it is high margin business. Yeah, that's the thing I think that surprises most people when they take a look at the P&Ls in these branches that do a lot of this ancillary work. They're making money. The shield business, the exclusion services, far even outpace the insulation. Could be iffy in some markets because of the cost going up and down.
Right.
But this exclusion business is crazy good. And look at that. I mean, almost $11 million in Maryland in ancillary services. Just outstanding.
I think they're drinking the Kool-Aid.
They are. Mr. Richards, Mr. Richards and Mr. Todd up there are figuring that out. Again, Iowa, Wisconsin, almost 10 million. Illinois region back on the board at 8.6. Tennessee, Alabama at 7.4, and Southwest Texas, popping in over $7 million. Just outstanding.
Strong performance.
Total dollars right there. Let's talk about the percent of last year, if you remember. Orkin was at 35% over last year. Look at Southwest with Donna Aguayo. Maybe we shouldn't have moved her to commercial sales. Maybe we should have kept her in termite. But we'll leave that up for Ed and Sean to figure out. But look at that performance, almost doubling those. Again, there's Bobby once again at 180%, and then the Georgia region popping onto the scene. Kind of leading the way for the Southeast and these ancillaries at 170. Just outstanding efforts across the board. Tied into termite is rack.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Can't do it without it.
Can't do one without the other.
Yeah.
So let's talk about rack. Our rack purchases. This is the 4th consecutive year. Terry Groff should be like doing something for us, taking us on some crazy trip somewhere. Oh, he already does that. 32% year-over-year increase.
Yeah.
$148 million of revenue. $148 million of revenue. Leading the pack, South Central with $41 million. Southeast at $34 million, and leading the way, the rack packers themselves in termite rack purchase dollars. Jacob and Alan down there in North Texas, Oklahoma region.
There's a little bit of horse race there on the top too.
Oh yeah, and believe me, not that anybody was keeping score, but I think
no,
they both
surely
were
not.
keeping score. They both were keeping score. But look at that race. I'm sure that Shane and Sam are coming, and Hutch are coming back for their title. So you better buckle up there, Jacob and Alan, and don't look now. But here come North Carolina, here comes Illinois, and here comes Virginia.
That's right.
Back to claim the crown.
That's
so
right.
just really strong performance on the dollars. Here's a slide that's talking about the comparison on year-over-year market share. So this is again it needs a bit of special mention. The market share in North Texas, Oklahoma was 79.1. That's what they ended the year at. I remember when we were trying to get regions to 40.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we were trying to get branches to 50, trying to get just crazy stuff.
And I remember when we were in the 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just nuts.
No.
I mean, think about that. 8 out of 10 of their contracts, their termite-related services, are purchased through rack. And then not far off the pace, and this is always a horse race as well with Cliff and Jacob going back and forth all the time. It's kind of entertaining. Cliff at 72% market share.
Yeah.
I remember the day when both of these market shares in both of these regions, it's in my time, it's like 4 or 5 years ago. Not single, but they were like mid-20s, low 20s.
All right.
And they just owned it and they took over.
All right.
And in North Carolina with a really strong bounce back, they had been perennially one of our higher market shares, and they got it fixed last year. And again, you see the difference in the discrepancies. The purchase dollars by region, not only did, we saw this slide a little bit earlier, did Jacob claim the market share, but he claimed the total dollars at 11. And then you got Sam and Shane Messer down there in Tennessee with $11 million and John Tessier kind of leading the charge or helping support that charge down there in North Carolina with the pure purchase dollars. I mean,
That's it.
I mean,
Solid.
Some of these RAC purchase dollars are more than regions.
Well,
sold
you can
at
see the
Termite 5 years.
correlation. You
Yeah.
can see it. With RAC up like that, market share up like that, you can see how it ties into the revenue associated with TC Ancillary.
Amen. Let's kick around a little bit of termite headwinds and tailwinds. What do you think? What are you thinking as you sit here?
One of the things I shared with the group 2 weeks ago, and this was a report that Pat Murray had shared with me probably 3 years ago that we had never really looked at. We always look at our pest control start rate, but we've really never looked at, I guess, the equivalent to the termite start rate, or the report has been dubbed completions as a percentage of sales. And again, as we grow the way we've been growing, adding salespeople is one thing, but if you don't have the technicians to get the work done, then the error that we tend to make is we start putting our service managers and our branch managers out into the field, and then things start to fall apart. And we've got to resist that. You know, we got to make sure that we've got these termite techs coming in, they're working this ancillary work, they're doing the drilling and filling, they're doing the, the bait installs. But again, at any point in time, when you look at your completions as a percentage of sales, you'll have operations that are trickling down into the 60s or the 70%, and that is clearly an indicator to me that we're not built for growth out in the field. Amen. So that's one of the biggest concerns and headwinds, if you would. We can sell it, there's no doubt. We can get it scheduled, but we have got to be able to get that work done in a timely manner.
The other thing that I kind of noticed and really kind of gathered in, and yeah, I've kind of seen the wave. It was kind of like the RAC wave, right? It started in Tennessee. So when we were in the Northeast, we took a whole bunch of sales managers into the Knoxville branch to figure out what the heck was going on. And I think the same thing has happened with the ancillary service lines, right?
Yeah.
We're starting to see more regions. They may tip their toe in the water this year. And then they start to get it going big gangbusters.
Sure.
And it started up in the Northeast, like I said, and kind of made its way. It certainly caught hold and caught fire in the Midwest, catching fire in the Southeast and the South Central, and starting to catch fire as you see by the leaderboard in the pack. But there's so much opportunity for places that don't do any of those services.
Yeah.
We're just not doing it. We haven't adopted it. We don't understand it, so we're not pitching it. And it's a great service, as you said.
Well,
we make a bunch of money on it.
The great thing, Ed, and I'll encourage everybody who's listening to the broadcast, keep this information, and if you're interested, go and find out the folks that are on the top and say, hey, how did you start doing this 2-3 years ago, and what were the biggest lessons learned? And all those stories are out there.
Amen.
So, and that's available for everybody.
No, and I certainly envision a very strong termite sales performance in 23. There's nothing that paints a picture that it would go anywhere less than double-digit, high 20s, increase like we've been
Agreed.
running. It just seems to be there. The one thing I would take it back is I would tie it back into staffing. I don't believe we have enough residential salespeople on the street right now. I mean, we got too many branches where you got 1 or 2 guys in the branch, and this guy's going to Chairman's Club and this guy's going to President's Club, but there's not that third or that fourth team member there. And I think we get isolated because we get hung up on the performance over last year. We get hung up on that silly plan number, that we put out there, and we settle for that. We got an awful lot of opportunity, and we got a great job. Residentially, our average salesperson makes $88,942 at the end of 22. $88,942.
Pretty good living.
You look at all these Amazon layoffs that are going on, and all these Facebook or Meta layoffs that are going on. We got a great job and a great opportunity for folks to make, as Cliff Brown says, life-changing money. We can do that for people. And
Well
we should
said.
do that.
Well said.
So
All right.
I think that's about it. We got a couple of, let's go back to the slide, Storm. Let's talk about President's Club a little bit. Well, I don't know. It's been a crazy year. Yeah. We've got some change in the leadership and getting the reports out and who won and who didn't. I do believe now that all the invites are out, so I want to share some winners here, right?
All right, let's do it.
Certainly at least the leaders. So for our region team, let's start out with the division. Sean Murray and his Pacific Division led the divisions, and will be representing Orkin Company as the division winners in New Orleans.
Congratulations, Sean and Pac Div. Y'all are blowing it out. We can't wait to see you real soon.
Outstanding. And then sneaking into our region managers in no particular order, because I know I would offend somebody, but we have Jason Slater leading the way for the Midwest team.
Yeah.
Number 1 guy there. Eric Durant, making another appearance. A lot of these guys are multiple winners. You got David Hutchinson leading the way in Tennessee, Alabama. Hutch has been the chairman of the Chairman's Club in termite sales, and now he puts another feather in his cap, goes as a region manager. Darren Doherty in West Florida, he got himself promoted to come handle all the Rollins customers in Georgia. Good luck with that, Darren. And then you just kept seeing that name, Maryland, up there.
Yeah.
John Richards. I think he's made President's Club like at every level. So John Richards, congratulations there. And then Greg Saladino, he went and won President's Club again, and he got himself promoted to ADP for Richard Rollins in the Southeast. So
A
just
lot of hard work, a lot of effort goes into that, and just congratulations to everybody on the list.
Amen. I think it's the thing I get most excited about. I'm most passionate about, and I got myself in trouble with the salespeople because we got too many going this year. So we're over budget, and I think everybody's blaming me. But this is such an accomplishment. If you've not ever walked across that stage, I go back to the first time I walked across that stage in '84. 85 actually was when the trip was. Literally brought to tears walking across the stage to get that handshake and that congratulations, knowing that you're the best of the best. So let's take a look, Stormy, at our top sales managers. The division leader is Gary Hubbard out of the Midwest Division. Now there's a guy I think qualified on every job he's ever had.
Yeah.
So Gary Hubbard, congratulations. You are the division representative for our division sales manager. So just an outstanding job. And then we had there's 3 spots that get awarded, but we got kind of I was going to say two-headed. I'm going to say two-headed rows.
Okay.
With the Monty,
good choice,
Amani and Brady leading the way on the Midwest Commercial. You saw some of their numbers up there earlier. Brian Rooney has filed an appeal that he thinks his name should be ahead of them, but we didn't rank them in any kind of order.
Okay.
He kind of threw some flag. He was trying to put a comment in there. But again, 3 folks, two commercial regions being represented, and then Bobby's name, as it popped up so many times on the slides, you kind of figured he might end up there, right? So Bobby Bundle's out there in Colorado, just kind of making his trip and punching his ticket to New Orleans, and we're just super excited about that. And I don't know. The only thing I would want to throw in there today, because we're starting to get some requests and some asks about one of the new President's Club rules coming out. They're kind of undergoing a little bit of an undermining and working them out, and I promise you that between Pat and the DPs, we're going to get those out as quick as we can. So if you get your salespeople, I probably had 15 of them ask me what the new goal is. There's going to be some changes to all the rules, so it's taken us some time to I guess massage our way through.
That's right.
Is that the easiest way to put it?
Yeah.
So no deadline on it or no date, but just understand we're trying to work our tails off to get through it. Fair enough. I only had I've got one more slide, Stormy, I think. And I think this is the message out of Pat's whole slide presentation that I got a kick out of, and it's this one. Do we have enough horses? And, he's a big horseman if you haven't figured it out. And if he's doing anything leisure, he's riding horses with his kids or driving them to some events or something like that. But I think that's the last message that I would have. I don't know, anything else you want to add? Any questions out there? I mean, if you got a question, put it in the chat.
Yeah.
I haven't been keeping track of it. But I guess all in all, the takeaway is just an outstanding 2022.
Yeah, rock solid performance.
Even with the residential miss,
Yes.
I think the sales performance on the residential side was probably one of the best we've ever had. Well, if the phone doesn't ring, the OCCC folks can't sell it.
That's right.
They can't sell it. We really haven't stood up an outbound crew yet, but we're working towards that. But
what do we have here? Any questions out there? I see a lot of congratulations, Ed.
Yeah. Awesome. I don't see any questions in there if you have one. If not, we will let them get back to their day. I know you got a whole lot of kickoff meetings going on. I'm getting to a bunch of them, and I think you're making your way to as many as you can. And I think I've got Pat convinced to doing this maybe once or twice a year.
Are you closing me now?
Well, no,
oh my
trying
Lord.
to get him committed on camera.
As much as you want to do it, I'm here.
No, I think it's outstanding. But again, that's just a snapshot, and I'll tag the deck in an email to you guys tonight if you want to share any of that stuff and the source documents. If you're looking to break this down for your region, I think that was one of the takeaways that the region managers had on your presentation last week.
Okay.
Was how do I boil that down to my turf so I can go through this, leaders and kind of, folks with opportunity. I'll send the all the data sources that I use to build these, and you can break them down. A couple clicks and sorts. You got somebody with wicked Excel skills on your team that can help you build those, and that might be something we're sharing.
All right.
Fair enough.
Well, thank you, Ed, for the invitation.
Welcome aboard, brother.
I'm glad
Happy
to
have
be here.
you.
Glad to be here.
Stormy, take us out of here. We'll see y'all.